All right, let's get started here. Thanks for joining us. Welcome, everybody. Hopefully you can hear us okay and see our screen, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, as we'll be presenting a PowerPoint presentation that will complement both of our guest speakers today. First, I just want to thank you so much for joining us here today, as we're extremely excited to present on digital processing services and more specifically how Plymouth County is handling its colonial past and over 400 years of land records. We'll begin our discussion today by providing an update on the industry itself and the challenges that local governments face when attempting to manage their records. Next, we'll hear from a longtime partner, John Buckley from Plymouth County, Massachusetts, who will give us some insight into the myriad of projects that we have worked together on and some of the results that have came out of this work. And lastly, we'll hear from our own product expert, Ann Kirkbride, who will dive into specific solutions that are available to meet your records management needs and the ongoing benefits that these solutions will provide to your constituents. The presentation will be roughly 35 to 45 minutes with a short 10 to 15 minute question and answer period directly following. So next, my name is Brennan Middleton. I'm a part of the client services team here at Avenu Insights and Analytics, and I'll be your host and moderator. I'll also be responsible for fielding those questions and throughout the presentation, so be sure to submit those via the chat feature here in WebEx, or you can send us an inquiry directly to webinars@avenuinsights.com. Next, I'd like to introduce to you our guest speakers here today. First, we are extremely thankful and honored to have with us today Register of Deeds from Plymouth County, Massachusetts, John Buckley. John was elected as Plymouth County Register of Deeds in November of 2000 and is currently in his fourth term as the Plymouth County Register of Deeds and Assistant Recorder of the Massachusetts Land Court. Register Buckley is an attorney licensed to practice law in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and before the United States Supreme Court. Our partnership with John and Plymouth County has spanned many years and resulted in an array of very successful projects that you'll hear about today. So John, I want to just begin by saying thanks again for joining us.
Welcome, happy to join you.
Next, Avenu Digital Processing Services expert and Senior Product Manager, Ann Kirkbride. Ann joined us in 2015 with over 14 years experience exclusively in the digital transformation industry for government solutions. As a partner at her previous company, she drove the development of products and solutions for extracting and managing the critical data from paper documents and media. These products are instilled in over 800 government jurisdictions around the country. Ann joins Avenu to help drive our digital processing division to the next generation of managing digital data from paper, microforms, and other medias created historical, and it's being created every day in your offices. So very briefly, before we get started, just to go over the agenda, first we'll quickly discuss the brief background of Avenu and more about our mission to serve state and local governments nationwide. Next, we'll take a look at the records management industry and some of the challenges that I know many of you are facing and dealing with across the nation. During this time, we'll also review some of the different types of records that we'll be discussing today and that are specific to many of our partners. As we previously chatted about, we mentioned we will hear from a longtime partner, Register of Deeds John Buckley, who will give us some insight into 3 different projects that we worked together on and some of the results that have come out of this work. And lastly, Ann Kirkbride will dive into the specific solutions that are available to meet your records management needs and the ongoing benefits that these solutions will provide to your constituents. As I mentioned previously, after the presentation, we'll have that short question and answer period. You can submit those throughout the presentation via our WebEx chat feature here, or you can submit those to webinars@avenuinsights.com. We'll wrap the presentation up today with a special offer that I'll let Ann talk to you a little bit about, so be sure to hang on for that one. So, who is Avenu Insights and Analytics? While partnering with over 3,000 government agencies nationwide, Avenu works with state and local officials to deliver software and services that enhance revenue and optimize operations. As you can see here, through these revenue enhancement and administrative solutions, we help leaders at every level of government establish better relationships with their communities, therefore making it easier for them to drive results for the citizens they serve. Our focus and resources give customers more predictable revenue as well as cost and ultimately allow governments to sustain a high quality of life. So with that, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Ann.
Thank you, Brennan. Well, for many of you, the question always is, why do we keep public records? So many of your offices are the caretakers of our public records, and you are tasked with all of the challenges to meet the ever-changing legislative mandates, maintain official records for our country's land ownership rights, while keeping these records available for your constituents. You need to provide access. We're in a world where we're seeing research needs to be done online, so how are we meeting some of those challenges? We'll certainly talk about how John did those today. And most importantly, these documents define who we are and what we own as a country. And we want to preserve our history. So one of the exciting parts of this project is we had the pleasure of working with John, who has, if you see on the right side of the screen, this is the Mayflower contract. So this was one of those documents that we have worked with to make available online with John. So if you think about this, this is the image of in William Bradford's handwriting, who was leader of the Puritans. It is the first American government agreement signed by all men on board the Mayflower ship, promising to abide by all laws that would be drawn up and agreed upon by all. It's that kind of history we don't want to lose. We want to make available to not only the constituents in your county, but all over the country. With that becomes, what are those challenges? So the challenges is, well, of course, access, accuracy, and authenticity. So as we move into a digital age, how is this being defined moving forward? When I say access, is it just in your office? Is it just in the paper book you open? You're tasked with the accuracy. Are these documents being tracked accurately? Do you have every page? Are the indexes up to date? And then the authenticity. So authenticity meaning this is the record that was recorded in your office. Other things to deal with. This has been a really tough year for natural disasters. Fire, floods, the external concerns you have with digitizing these records to make sure you can survive a natural disaster. And then you have the internal concerns to worry about. What about deterioration from usage? Anytime you've got the public using your records, you have to worry about the deterioration from just the usage of that. And occasionally, we see that pages go missing. So in an era where the cost of archiving paper is becoming very expensive, we're seeing budgets we're not given the space and the increase in real estate to continue to store these permanent records. And then, of course, how will you maintain as we change with legislative mandates? Do you make it available? Do you have to worry about the private information? Does somebody's name or social security number exist in those records that you then have to be concerned with the challenges? And most importantly, one of the concerns that happened for Plymouth is there was this growing concern is we have these documents that are 400 years old. They're written in 18th century cursive. And as the education systems move and we no longer teach cursive, how do we make these historic documents available, readable, and most importantly, understandable for the generations to come? So with the record types, we're always balancing your day forward current recordings with all this history that sits in your office. Whether you're John and you're the Register of Deeds or you're the clerk of the court in Texas, you might have varying types of records that you are sworn to take care of and make public to guard our history. And in this, so if you are, there might be your vital records. If you're a clerk in Texas, you have to worry about vital records. John, he doesn't have to worry about vital records. He's a Register of Deeds, but he has to worry about land courts. Or if you're in California, you're the recorder until you're the recorder, the assessor. And again, there's this variety of documents we have to manage. If you're the probate judge in Alabama, guess what? You have a responsibility for land records and business licensing. So whether you are across the country, you all have the same concerns, and that is, and responsibilities, and that is the caretaking of these official records, and most of them are permanent records that go on into perpetuity. If you're the city manager, you might have agenda meetings where these ordinances that were signed 100 years ago you still need to keep track of. So whatever your place, whatever the size of your county, whether it be large or small, you're all tasked with the same concerns and same challenges. The smaller you are, probably the less resources you have, and the bigger you are, the more complexities and exceptions that you see. Records management growth. This is something that we are seeing everywhere. AIM is stating that 75% of these organizations, they view all this digital information as chaos, and how will they manage it? 35% of these organizations state that they are growing fivefold every few years. In the digital management world, they are talking that we need to have plans in place to know how we're going to manage these in years to come. And as you know, in your offices, you walk through your offices, you might have a book that's, well, in John's case, 400 years old. You might have colony records. You might have documents that are sitting in file cabinets. And they might be different medias. Maybe they're paper and microfilm and aperture cards. So all that you have to manage and say, how do we digitize it? How do we make it available? And how do we protect it? So some of that chaos can be reduced by just having kind of a digital transformation plan in place, and you do it by baby steps. And it's going to be exciting to hear how John conquered that. I mean, 400 years of history. Most of us are only going back to the 1800s, so it's pretty exciting to know it can be done. And with it comes all those challenges. Okay, do I index everything? What type of documents do I have? Do I index everything? I think it's really important to always understand the goals of the project. Maybe I don't need every character off that document. Maybe I just need the names and the document numbers and filing numbers, because my goal is to get it online and make it searchable. Or maybe your constituent is the land title companies, and then, of course, you have to be concerned with indexing all the way down to lot, block, subdivision. So it's really important to understand who's using their records, how can you make them available, and that certainly affects time, cost, and availability. Many of your records already have legislative retention schedules. So understanding what those are, and maybe that helps guide you in your project on where you start. And, you know, maybe the must-haves are, you know, I'm only scanned back to 1995 and I want to go back to sovereignty. Others start with book 1, page 1, and go forward and meet somewhere in the middle. Where and how to store these documents. This is a bigger challenge as we move into this digital age, because we often talk about physical security. But in a digital age, what are we going to be doing to ensure that that data that you received from an e-filing or that you digitize, that those digital files are being protected? And as time moves forward, there's more initiatives on cybersecurity, there's more things to consider, and so really there's multiple things to security in documents. It's physical security and document security. The other thing is, how fragile are those documents? As you look at books and pages that are hundreds of years old, they become fragile, and certainly understanding how to work with those, how to make them available is really important. Do they require preservation? Do you put them away? It's really important to understand what you want to provide for your constituency. And then, of course, what state law requires. In many parts around the country, microfilm is still considered that archival copy and something you need to keep. So when you walk through your storage areas, you smell microfilm? Do you smell vinegar? That might be, you might have a little deterioration starting in your microfilm. So it might be the time to go out and kind of, hey, let's do an inventory and make sure if that is what we're legislatively mandated to keep, certainly maybe we need to look into duplicating those films, that microfilm, and digitizing it. You can always reprint a record. How do you evaluate budget, time, and needs? And everybody on here knows this, of course, is the biggest concern. Given all the time and the money in the world, we want to do everything. So there's opportunities. I know with John, he explored a lot of grant funding, so he was able to get some of this work done from state grants that were available. Do you have technology funds? Are there archival funds available? Some of our customers are even funding these projects by putting the records online, making them available for download, and then that revenue is what's helping them not only fund projects in their city so that they can put more records online and continue to drive that revenue up in the city. Very important. One of the things I will say, John, it has just been our pleasure to be your partner in this journey as we watch you accomplish, getting ready to celebrate the 400th anniversary in Plymouth County.
So, Ann, thanks. That's some great information, and I'm certain you've continued to see the industry evolve, especially as technology advances, and thanks for touching on that. I think it sets the stage nicely to transition into our guest speaker today. Again, John, welcome, and thank you for joining us. I'll hand it over to you now to tell us a little bit more about yourself, some background on Plymouth County, your specific responsibilities, and a little insight into those 3 different projects we've partnered together on.
Great. Thank you, Brendan, and thanks to Ian for all those nice words. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. It's an elected office here in Massachusetts. I know the position goes under different names across the country in different functions, but we're responsible for the recording, preserving, and making available all land records within the 27 communities of Plymouth County. Plymouth County is located in southeastern Massachusetts. It's bordered by Norfolk County to the north, the Atlantic Ocean on the east, Barnstable County or Cape Cod to the south, and Bristol County to the west. It was founded based upon the arrival of the Mayflower as Plymouth Colony in 1620. It's also significant due to the fact that in 1623, our colonial leaders transitioned from common ownership to private property during what was known as the starving time in order to get greater production from the colonists. What we do today in Plymouth County is a continuation of a land record system developed in Plymouth Colony almost 400 years ago. The celebration of the 400th anniversary of Plymouth Colony begins next year in 2020. So I'd like to talk about a few of our projects that we've concluded or are in the middle of. After transitioning to our new building after my election in 2000, our main goal at the registry was to take and get all of our resources, our hard copy books, and those types of resources available on our internet because the public demanded it. Clearly, with the development of the internet, everyone wants everything instantaneously, and with the help of a funding mechanism that we had back when the Massachusetts governor, Mitt Romney, now a Utah United States Senator, increased recording fees, the registries were allowed a technology fund developed from a surcharge on real estate. It's a fund that we collect every month. We forward it to the state. We then apply for projects from that fund with the Secretary of State's office in the Massachusetts Information Technology Division, now a secretariat at the state level. And if those projects meet what is considered to be consistent with our technology fund, we have the right to take that money back and use it for projects. There are 3 of our recent projects that I'm going to talk about today, and clearly they're very important to what we do as a registry. One is a historical indexing project. We indexed over 1 million documents beginning in 1944 and going back to 1686, which was the founding of Plymouth County, when we linked the images to the index and we loaded them online, obviously with the help of our partner, so that they could be searched by anyone in the world over our internet site. It's been very well received. We in Plymouth County obviously have a lot of people that are interested in our history, so that has been something that the realtors, the lenders, and genealogists, and historical societies, and historical associations have found to be invaluable in researching the records that they work with in the various roles that they have in our opportunities here in Plymouth County. It's online right now. You can go search it on our website, PlymouthDeeds.org, once you're done with this particular program. But we're very thankful to have that as a completed project. The next project I'm going to talk about is something that we were really very interested in doing in preparation for the 400th anniversary of the colony. As I said, that is next year. We have hard copy books of 11 volumes of land records, beginning with what you see on the right-hand side, a document that was handwritten out by Governor William Bradford, who was our second colonial governor, and he was the person that is basically the foundation for land records in America. Clearly, the land record system we all operate under today was based in England as they brought them forward, and that particular document laid out a street currently occupied and continuing today with homes and travelers on a daily basis. It was named the street in the handwriting of Governor William Bradford. Later was named to Leiden Street, named after the colonists who had lived in Leiden, Holland, for many years after they had left England. Even today, it is a place that people historically interested walk up and down. There are plaques on some of the where some of the former colonists had lived, and is part of the history of Plymouth and the Plymouth Colony and Plymouth County. So right now we're in a project that is in progress to link those original documents to an index. So anyone searching online would be able to find the name of the owners of these properties and come right to the land records that go back into the early 1620s and forward to 1685. It's quite fascinating. We have a lot of people that are interested in our colony history. There are descendants of the Mayflowers, some of them which have visited us at our site in preparation for the 2020 celebration. And as we enter into the next year celebration, we'll have many hundreds of thousands of visitors that will come to Plymouth. And I know as part of that, they'll be researching their ancestors. There are lines of ancestors for John Alden, one of the original colonists, William Bradford, and all of the original colonists. And many of those are so excited to come to Plymouth to celebrate that history next year. As part of that, we're bringing forward the land records land records, which we all know, anyone that's been involved in it throughout the county, there's such a history in our land records, no matter whether it's 1620 or the 1800s, it really tells a story of your community and something that people really enjoy that are historically oriented. And the next project that we're involved in with basically relates to something that our partners mentioned earlier, that a lot of people, as we're bringing them through the school systems, aren't understanding or being taught cursive writing, the beautiful handwriting that is almost a work of art from the original quill pens and then the steel nib pens that they copied over the original documents into our records to preserve ownership rights. Unfortunately, the ability to decipher those records are only going to be left to a historical few. So we thought it would be important, as I will say Norfolk County has done, to have the ability to look at the handwritten records and then be able to transfer with a click of a button to go over to the transcribed version in the printed version and be able to start with those. That's a work in progress. The technology has been developed. We're reviewing it today, and we'll soon have some of those up for viewing again on our website, PlymouthDeeds.org. The button will be available to instantly transform to see the transcription, and you will be able to see those shortly. We're very proud of the work that we've done, again, with the help of our partners, Avenu, and some great work from our staff, our IT people, as well as other people within our operation that prioritize these efforts so that our users out there, whether it be title examiners, the realtors, the lenders, the attorneys that use our records on a daily basis, have great efficiency in doing that. And I will say that our IT department runs a monthly training session for how to navigate our system. So by all working together with our outside partners that have put these together, as well as our staff inside, we're really very proud at how we can share this information. So thank you for allowing me to tell our story, and be happy to answer some questions at the end. So thanks, Brennan. Thanks, Ann.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. I know the whole team does. I know it's been great working with you on this particular project together, but the team is looking forward to finishing our transcription project, and we wish you the absolute best as Plymouth 400-year anniversary just around the corner. Next, I want to welcome back Ann to talk a little bit more about the specific solutions that are available. So, Ann, let's outline some of the considerations that many of those in the line may be having at this point, some of the different situations that we've seen in terms of types of documents that we handle, and more so the overall process that we follow.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brennan. And certainly seeing what's been accomplished with John going back 400 years, it's the same process for everybody. And John had a real clear goal. He wanted to make his records available online. He knew he had a rich history, and he wanted to bring those forward and even unlock. I mean, we were learning things about the colonial records that we might have learned in school, but we have forgotten. So that's all been a great project. So really, it goes back to know that it's possible. It really just takes a series of identifying what's important, working with vendors, working with your inside teams, working with your community to how to make it happen. So what are your goals? We know John's was online access. Maybe yours is supporting everything. You might already be e-filing, as in Plymouth is in well across the country. You might already be receiving electronic documents. So it might be juggling between having the historical documents meet the day forward documents. Is it searching and making these documents available only internally? You want to make them available in your search stations, online. Again, understand everybody's jobs a little bit differently. Your legislative requirements are a little different across the country. So clearly defining what those goals are so that the teams and your partners can help you accomplish that. Certainly inventory and your objectives. Where do you start? I would say most projects are going to start as a combination of you've got paper files. You might even have indexes that don't have images. You might have images with no indexes. Is to really understand what you have and make that plan moving forward. What resources are available? We've talked about grant fundings. We've talked about John has a great staff. You might be able to bring in, it might be a hybrid of working with internal staff, bringing in outside resources and interns to help fund, and fill the gaps for those resources, the resources that you require. And then, of course, the strategy behind it. I will tell you that I know we work with our customers every single day, and you know what you want to get accomplished, and we are so excited to always work with that strategy and help you execute your visions for taking care of your records. In execution, start. Maybe some customers start, the first time they scanned a record. Maybe it wasn't until the 90s, or maybe it was you were an early adopter and were scanning records back in the 80s, and you want to start in 1980, and maybe your goal is 40 years for your title searchers. Whatever that is, small baby steps helps you get there. And kind of some of the considerations. Certainly, we understand your struggles, right? You've got these documents that might be hundreds of years old. They could be deteriorating. What are the condition? And there might be different strategies depending on the age and condition of your books. Again, are they handwritten? Are they typed? Do you have microfilm? Do you have photostat storage? Really understand what are the indexing requirements required by statute, and then what they are if you want to search them online. And, of course, paper storage. We know that budgets are shifting. There's not funding. Everyone is being asked to do more with less, and one of those ways is certainly building your digital archives moving forward. So again, what are the objectives? Online access, more physical storage, historical preservation, meeting those statutory requirements easily. I touched on it a little bit earlier. John is like many other counties, used a combination of on-site internal staff as well as partners like us to do these projects. And the other thing is, what's your disaster recovery? It has been a really, really tough year for natural disasters, and you couple that with the disasters you meet internally with just the use, and there are fires in buildings, gets water damage. So again, electronic disaster recoveries is always a very easy way that if you meet with a natural disaster that you are able to come online very quickly, because the access to your records is one of the most important issues that people have when they are hit with some kind of natural disaster. With most projects, it's a combination of many, many factors. Again, you might have a combination of images that have been digitized. You might have done some of your own scanning yourself. You might have done some of your indexing. In almost every project, it is a combination. What do we have in paper? What do we have in digital images? What do we have on film? And then, of course, what's the goal? Is it enable those constituents to search, retrieve? Do you need help with indexing? Do you need, it's all kind of a combination, and it's nice. We are a very full-service company, so we have laboratories sprinkled across the country. We have a lot of staff that are here just to help you with whatever those concerns are. Imaging. You know, the other considerations, if you're a clerk in Texas or you're someone who works with court records, you have to worry about, here you are tasked with make it available online, and now you find out there's privacy information that is embedded in these documents. How are you handling redaction of those copies? These are all problems that we've seen with our customers before, and it's good to have your state organizations, your legislators really there to help you as you navigate through these challenges. I think we talked about film duplication. For many of you, that is still that statutory archival requirement. We're seeing there's been a lot of movement with that as well, because originally we thought that was a 400-year medium, and it might be if it was climately controlled and it was stored properly, but if it had been sitting in your office, we're finding the lifespans are a lot less than that. So again, whether it's film to image, image to film, maybe you've got books in lots of areas. You've got books that you are mandated that if they're before 1900, you can't get rid of them, and you need to maintain them, preserve them. The transcription, this is kind of a new thing as we go back to these handwritten documents. Many, many documents. Our first documents were handwritten in books across the country. If you were the city manager, you might have handwritten ordinances. If you're the probate judge, if you're the recorder, the register of deeds, and again, how are you going to store that information in the beginning? So we're now seeing more where we're transcribing these records to unlock that information while we can still read it, understand it. I think we have a few case studies.
All right. Sorry, Ann. That's my fault. Speaking of these types of solutions, Ann, let's wrap up by giving a quick overview of a few other projects that we worked on and some of the results that have come out of these efforts. I think we have a few different size jurisdictions to follow here, 3 or so, that we can highlight with various different solutions that we've partnered with them on.
Right, and some of the things we've talked about today, that's our average project, is we do multiple things for our customers, and regardless of the size of the county, Grime County, another long-term customer, great partner to work with. Their population is 28,000. They have the same problems that Cook County, Illinois has. They have the same problem that Sacramento, California has. The only problem is they're usually trying to figure out ways to do it with less resources and less money, but whether you're small to large, you are still tasked with the same challenges in maintaining these permanent public records. Another one of our customers, Cumberland County, Maine. You know, this is kind of more of a mid-sized county, mid for across the country, but big for Maine. Highly populated, another long-term customer, and it's the same with all of our customers. We usually have ongoing projects going back each and every year as funding allows, as time allows, and they can. So it's another one. We're digitizing microfilm. We're doing recreation. They had some film that was contaminated, so we work with them on that. And again, Cumberland, Maine, another one of those areas, has a lot of handwritten 18th century transcribed documents as well. And then, of course, if you're a large county like Cook, Illinois, population of 5 million, another project that we did, a 5-year archival project. We did on-site scanning, books, historical indexing. We loaded into our system, 1.6 million pages, 400,000 documents. So whether we only have these 10 books to scan or we have 15 million pages, the process is the same, the tools are there, the processes are there to help you no matter where you're at.
Awesome. So yeah, we feel certainly honored to partner with these three that we mentioned today, along with Plymouth and on various other projects. And again, we have ongoing relationships to serve all of their record management needs over the course of many, many years. So John, if you'll wrap us up today with some of the ongoing benefits that these services have had on your jurisdiction, and speak just a couple minutes as to the why behind you decided to do these projects a little bit, and why Avenu has been a successful partner through those efforts.
Well, I think as you look at the three blocks, bullet points of the different ideas that you look at when you go forward on these kind of projects, it says improve citizen engagement. You know, it really is engagement not only with citizens, but your partners. We have great partners in the real estate community. The realtors in our area are responsible for going out and getting people to look at property, sign them up, let them know, walk them through the process of either listing a property or bringing them to buy a piece of property. It is a very, very strong organization, the realtor community. So our relationship with the realtor community and the ability for us to instantaneously provide them access to documents by just going on our website is something we're very proud of. Historical organizations are part of our community, particularly here in Plymouth County, the former Plymouth Colony. Every day there are many people searching the history of their community. Every single one of our 27 communities has a great history, and our ability to share with them land records, again, instantaneously, allows them to research their projects in a lot faster way, and something that is very important. In historical preservation, there's one thing about land records, it is that they are permanent. And the ability for us to have a piece of property that's available as an image is one thing, but we also have, you know, backup tapes, we have backup microfilm that preserves not only the history of it in the event that we ever were to have to recreate those, but it just allows us to preserve the fabric of our communities. And above all else, when you look at land records, you know that they are actual and authentic in their identification of property rights. I go back to the development of private property rights in Plymouth Colony back to 1623. At the time, the colonists were doing it for a different reason. They were trying to, you know, get the colonists to have more production so that they could survive at the time. But clearly, the ability to look at a land record and see your boundaries, if your neighbor's putting up a fence and it's going into your property, and you go to your land record, your property deed that identifies the boundaries of your property, it preserves unanimity in the ownership of property, and eliminates what many other countries don't have, which is identifiable land boundaries for ownership, and it eliminates any disputes. Of course, if there is a dispute, that can be taken to the Massachusetts Land Court, and they'll issue a decision. So here in Plymouth County, we have two sides of the registry. We have recorded land side, and we also have land court documents that at one point have been in dispute based upon ownership interests, based upon a probate issue, or based upon boundary disputes. And the judges issue a declaration that we then turn into a certificate. And again, all boundary disputes, all ownership disputes have a way of resolving themselves. Again, unlike other countries across the world, I believe our record system in the United States is the finest anywhere. So those are why we do what we do, and we all do it in a different way, but the basis of what we do is to protect individuals' private property rights.
Incredible. All right. Well, John, Ann, thank you both for that insightful presentation. We're going to move into our question and answer period now, as many of you are submitting those via the chat and question and answer box here in WebEx. We're going to take the next 10 minutes or so and answer some questions that have come through. Let's kick it off by the first one that came through. Some of our books have suffered from public use and the pages are falling apart, frayed, and torn. Are they even able to be scanned? Anna, I think that one would be for you.
Okay, absolutely. And there are bound book scanners. We call it white glove treatment. So we know some of those pages are almost even falling apart. So we can come out and image those books, and even if they're old books, the bindings between the technology, our white glove process, we can absolutely keep that page from being further deteriorated. And in many cases, some of our customers want to reprint those so people can continue to handle them if needed.
Awesome. Okay. Another one says, what file format are records digitized into? PDF, TIFF, etc.? Can you elaborate on that a little bit, Ann?
Absolutely. And pretty much there is a wide range of TIFF format, of formats that we can digitize in. They're short of TIFF, JPEG, PDF, searchable PDF. There's about 14 different file formats. I've yet to find one we couldn't work with.
Awesome. Okay. Another one says, what's the process that we follow to transcribe a document from cursive handwritten to a text file?
Now I'm a techie girl, so this is kind of exciting. So not only were presented with this 18th century cursive that was challenging to even read and understand, but through, we've done hundreds and hundreds of these books now, so we're getting quite good at that. We introduced technology to it. Realized that the future attorneys of our nation wrote these documents. So we saw the same kind of verbiage that was used over and over again, and we're able to add some technology to that so that we could identify these commonly used phrases.
Awesome.
So technology, just humans, as well as technology made that happen.
Cool. Another short one, Ann says, will you help us, or will you guide us on sort of the step-by-step through creating an inventory of what documents and what steps to take and what direction to go?
Absolutely. We can send you we use internally inventory sheets where basically you go through and you just start cataloging that. We've got staff that you would be able to speak to that could walk you through this process and absolutely help you understand what you have and maybe offer suggestions what other customers have chose to do, and at least you understand your options moving forward.
All right. This one mixes us up a little bit, John. This one's for you, I believe. It says, what would William Bradford say today about the preservation program we have there?
Well, I think William Bradford, if he was alive, would be very happy as to how Plymouth Colony has developed. And clearly they came to America or the New World to have their own freedoms in a very number of ways. And I believe that when he and the colonists and their colonial court transitioned to private land ownership, they'd be proud today of the system that has been developed from that. If anyone wants to come and visit our registry, next year they're celebrating the 400th anniversary of the colony. If you go to Plymouth 400 website, they're going to have a lot of great events, and if people are on their way to Cape Cod on vacation, we love visitors. But William Bradford will be very proud of what has developed from their original small colony.
Wonderful. Another short one came through from Arizona. It says, is Arizona included in your service story? I can take that one. Absolutely. We work with clients and partners all across the country. And we have partnerships with different communities in all 50 states. So yes, we certainly would be able to partner with you in Arizona. It says, and is the scanning for deed books a one page at a time process, or is there a solution to scan multi-page books?
We certainly have, when you have multi-page books, yes. So if they're a bound book, if we open the book, we actually scan both pages at the same time. If it is a book that is pinned or comes apart, then we have scanners that will provide scanning for what we would consider loose leaf or pinned books. So, but mostly, yes, when you're dealing with these books, especially the historic books, you're opening the book, it's bound, we don't want to destroy it, and we are filming it 2 pages at a time.
Wonderful. Another one is more of a futuristic question, and it says, what conversations has your company had around future media to make sure that these documents can be read when today's technology gets outdated?
That is a fun part for me. So we are, that is absolutely the most fun I have, is that obviously we want to look down. We actually believe that about every 5 years, I try not to say this because it scares people, but you need to be looking at your digital media, and we're looking at it in realms of 5 years at a time. So, because if you think about all of the products that have come and gone, I mean, even what we digitize today, we digitize aperture cards and microfiche and, not in addition to microfilm. We don't even know what we're going to see in the future, but I can tell you we're looking at it. We're looking at digital security protocols. We're looking at how will we manage that data and keep it accessible 400 years from now.
Wonderful. Okay. For time purposes, we're gonna move on to our free offer here that we mentioned in the beginning, and those are which questions that we didn't get to. We'll make sure to follow up with you individually immediately following the presentation today. And for those of you that were asking about the PowerPoint slides and recording of the presentation, those will be available. We will send those out to you in the next day or so, just to follow up and make sure that you have a copy of these if you want to review them on your own time. So, Ann, will you take our guests through what our special offer today and how we can better serve their document management needs wherever they may be?
Absolutely. We can assist you in kind of the, guide into creating your inventory and maybe help you prioritize that with budget numbers and, what you're trying to accomplish long-term and short-term. And also, as kind of as you can well imagine, on a regular basis, we are scanning these historical books and documents, and we know that they are faded, sometimes hard to read, and over the last 40 years, we have a robust set of tools and technologies that really help us restore and work with those images so that they're readable, so faded pages are readable. Stamps that have gone away, we can restore. And so what we want to do is our thank you for you taking your time today. We know how busy everybody is. We would like to offer with every quote that we do in relationship, mention the webinar, that we will offer free automated digital enhancements for any of your historical bound books, as well as, a thank you to help us celebrate with John the 400th anniversary of Plymouth. Because as John was saying, one of the things is there's maps and plats in every single county, and we understand, every line is important, and some of the digital enhancement tools we have been able to get where if we're looking at that plat, we can restore those lines that were started to fade. And as John would say, that helps keep people out of court. It defines not only who owns the property, but the boundaries of that property. So we would like to offer you that today, and just a warm thank you, and it's our pleasure to help you in your journey to digitize your documents today and moving forward.
Wonderful. All righty. Well, John, Ann, again, thank you once again for taking the time. For all those on the phone, thanks for sticking around. We really appreciate you joining us today. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, inquiries into our free offer, inquiries into different opportunities or guidance with your particular goals, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can send those inquiries via email to our distribution at webinars, plural, at avenuinsights.com, or you can give us a call directly at 571-313-5881, and we'll have an Avenu representative standing by to take your questions, comments, and make sure that we get a follow-up back to you as soon as possible. So, again, thanks, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Brennan. Thank you, John.
Okay, thanks, guys. Yeah.